Hey boys and girls, welcome back. What we have today is, can you polish black plastic trim? So, like everything else in life, nothing is created equal. When it comes to black trim pieces, vinyl trim, they will come in endless configurations, endless formulations, endless types of compounds. What I have is a side mirror on my 1998 work van. It's an Astro van. This is a black side mirror. It's made out of plastic. This has been replaced. It's an aftermarket piece that I replaced a few months ago. It is already beginning to fade. So what can we do with that? Can we polish it? Can we wax it? Do we use a black restoration dedicated trim product on it? What can we do? Well, the simple answer is this. This is the rule. If it is smooth type of material, whether it's painted metal, molded plastic, or painted plastic, the simple answer is yes, it can be polished. So how do we polish it? Well, first you start with a clean surface, then you pick a polish. Now there's two types of basic polishes. There's what's called chemical polish, which does polishing through chemicals in the product, and there's what's called mechanical polishes, which means they have abrasives to the formulation. This is my go-to product. It's called Ceramics. It's by a company called CSI, Clear Coat Solutions, a single product polish. It's unique to the industry because it's not made out of diminishing abrasive technology. It's what I call controlled abrasive technology, meaning all the abrasives are uniform in size. Most of you watching this likely will not have access to a buffer. So I'm often asked, hey Darren, because generally I'm going to bust out a buffer and I'm going to cut to the chase, because I know that I can produce results with a polisher or a buffer that I cannot produce by hand. But I get it. You may not want to, or you may not have the access to a buffer. So the simple answer is yes, you can do it by hand. It's going to require more work, but I'm guessing for a lot of you, especially if you're a beginner, it means a lot less fear and anxiety to the moment, because you feel that you have more control of the moment. And in fact, you do, but with that, there's always going to be trade-offs. The trade-off in this moment is that your end results may not be as superior as you could achieve if you used a buffer. The other thing I want to add to that is that with a buffer, even though you think you relinquish some of that control in a scary, scary way, the reality is that you still remain in control. You can control the speed. There's a speed dial setting on it. Most polishers also have what's called a soft start trigger, which means that you can ease into it by just barely depressing the start button, and it will ramp up to the set setting. Also, there's this thing called pressure. How much pressure are you going to apply? How much duration are you going to maintain in a particular spot? What type of polishing pad are you going to use? They all have nuances to them, and they all have trade-offs to them. So I did this by hand. We have better results because we have a shinier material, and who doesn't like healthy amounts of shine as a rule, right? I know I do. Chances are you do also. But what I want to show you is me using a buffer in direct sunlight with this particular polish. That's all I've used. I put it directly on the pad as per manufacturer's directions. And as manufacturer directions, you apply it to the center of pad. You place the buffer down. You do that. It dispenses the polish throughout the pad onto it, and then you can proceed to FYI, that was set to a setting of 800 RPMs, which is very low in the industry of polishing. I wipe it off. But what we have is a dilemma. It's called this section over here. It would be very difficult to get a traditional buffer in these tight little areas of your car. So, in many instances, you will have to default to both if you have access to a buffer, but you're working with a tight area. So you just bust out the polish, apply a little to a microfiber cloth, and proceed to polish. And something what I want to show you specifically is this. You will notice as I'm polishing, as I'm checking my cloth, very little black is coming onto it. But the fact that any color is coming off onto the polishing pad tells me that this is a non-clear coated material, meaning that I'm dealing with either a black molded plastic side mirror or a painted black side mirror. Really, it matters not when it comes to polishing it. I just know that it's not clear coated. So I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna finesse with my hands. As a rule, just know that most guys will use more polish than they need at the beginning. As society, we've been groomed to think more is always better. Well, sometimes more is just messier. Sometimes more is just more, neither good nor bad. It's a case-by-case situation. I'm just trying to illustrate that as beginners, most of you will default to too much polish versus not enough polish. But that's where you finesse your moment. You decide what the winning balance is. So there, I finished it by hand. Now, before we go, let me add this. Some of you, well, as in most of you, will not have this laying around your house handy for you to use. I get it. This comes in different sizes. There's also an 8-ounce size, which is very small if you want to test the waters. This is my go-to polish. It's not a compound, it's a polish. But maybe you have a product like this, which is labeled as a car paint scratch repairer or remover. This has abrasives in it. Always read the manufacturer's directions. Hopefully it won't be so confusing to you that you can't tell what's going on, but there will be some suggestion as to whether it has abrasives, what is its potentials. So you can have something as handy as this, but always test the waters, always test in an inconspicuous area, use it on a clean surface, using it in shaded, cool, or using it on a shaded, cool surface, as a rule, is always going to be easier for you than on a hot, sunny surface. But I'm just kind of experimenting and going off the reservation a little bit and showing you that, in fact, I can tweak most products to use it in direct sunlight. This product specifically, because it is true waterborne technology, can in fact be used in direct sunlight, and it's completely doable and acceptable. Okay, with that said, I don't know if you have any mirrors like this, but if you scrutinize your car, you will find that it was made up of many, many types of black trim. From porous, textured black vinyl trim, to smooth painted metal parts, to smooth molded plastic parts. So that's the operating rule. If it's smooth, you can polish it as a rule, but you always test. If it's textured and porous, then that's where you're going to default to a different product, like a true trim restoration product. Now that you've actually restored your black plastic trim, how do you maintain it? Well, this is where you bust out your choice of wax. You apply it based on manufacturer's directions. In this case, I'm using the CSI Q7 spray wax. I apply it, I buff it, I flip the cloth over, polish it to a shine, and then I'm good to go. For giggles, there's more, guys. What I want to show you is this. This is metal. It's either been painted or molded in black, but it is metal. It's not plastic. So the question then becomes, okay, it's smooth. That suggests that I can polish it like Darren has just taught me. So we always start out with a clean surface, which means you remove the superficial dirt. Assuming that most of you will be doing this by hand, I'm going to bust out some of the turtle wax. Apply a little dollop like that. I am in direct sunlight, which most products will say use on a cool shaded surface. A cool shaded surface is always going to be easier on a hot in direct sunlight surface, but there is some formulations like the CSI product that actually can be used directly on hot paint in direct sunlight. So here we are. You see that it's pulling up black. So that tells me, once again, that it's a non-clear coated material. It's smooth, so it can be polished. And I just wanted to show you me polishing on a different type of material, which is metal, either painted or molded in black, so that we can restore the shine and luster. And who doesn't like more shine and luster? I flip the cloth over. I always use a microfiber cloth. I can tell here that it's not as shiny here as it is in some other areas. So often, as the case may be, you simply rinse and repeat. go back in with another small area. Now I know that I will never be able to produce by hand the same results I can produce by machine, but you may not have access to a machine. I get that. So that's where you're going to have to accept trade-offs. And using a machine, it's a whole separate video, but just know that here I am, metal, plastic. Just know I just wanted to highlight another version of metal versus plastic. Okay, same thing. Once you do it, you follow it up with your form of wax choice for protection and visual enhancement, and you're good to go. With that said, I'll end there. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Until next time, I'll see you on the next video.